wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Pokeballs Podcast. This is episode number 11, Scott, and we're now on our own platform here on our own very own channel, which is really great. Thank you so much to each and every one of you for the support that you give in the podcast, the comments, everything. Keep them coming though as the week's gone. We've got another great episode today. My name is Lee, one of your hosts, joined by my ever so wonderful co-host, Scott. How are you doing, mate?
I'm doing very good. You know, such a nice introduction.
With that
I feel so
beautiful blue hair, mate. It
Oh,
looks great.
thank
I
you.
did say it before we came on, but I got to reiterate it for our listeners. And well, for our listeners, people that aren't viewing on YouTube, Scott's got this like silver blue kind of egg on this week. It looks fire. It really looks good, mate.
My friends
Really like
described it as toothpaste coloured.
That
So
feels mean.
yeah,
Feels
it
mean.
was mean.
I think it's like got a like. I really like that silver color in hair, but it's got like a blue.
You used to have
tint
silver hair,
to it.
didn't you?
Yeah,
Yeah, look
yeah.
good. Look good.
Thanks. I know I'm a bit boring at the minute. just standard. What I was born with hair color.
Yeah.
So yeah. Good weekend though, mate. Good week.
Good
Haven't really
weekend.
caught up with you in a while.
Oh yeah, I know you had a busy weekend, didn't you?
Ooh, busy. Yes.
Yeah, what did I do over the weekend? Was it last weekend? I had Comic-Con. No, it wasn't. What day is it today? I'm getting confused. It's a Tuesday.
It is Monday today.
It's a Monday.
No, it is Tuesday today.
Tuesday. Oh my god, I'm so confused.
Tuesday. I'm lost as well.
No,
Where are we?
didn't get up to too much at the weekend.
Yeah.
Just standard stuff. Just chilled out really. Did some bits with the channel. We made a Twitter account now. We have for the podcast, so feel free to go follow us on Twitter. I'll be posting shorts and just random bits and behind the scenes. Any updates,
Nice.
if you want updates with the pod, go there basically. And obviously we'll put stuff out on the channel as well. So
Be the place to go for that. Yeah.
But
Oh,
you,
that sounds good, mate. Nice chill weekend.
you were commentating another event.
I was in Torino, in Turin, in Italy this past weekend. So I flew out Wednesday evening last week. We did some free kind of stream content on the Thursday and the Friday, prepared for the stream, and then it kicked off on the Saturday. We had day one, Swiss, on the Saturday, but we had some hiccups along the way. There was a power cut, mate,
Power
in the middle
cut.
of the event. Yeah,
Oh,
for
wow.
3 hours.
3 hours.
3 hours. 3 hours.
Holy
in the middle of the
moly,
day.
man!
I was in the middle of an interview with Francesco Pardini, and the power cut. It was just like boom,
Was it like
the
the whole
room
thing
just-
dark?
the
room
whole
dark?
thing. And it wasn't just the venue either. It was like that entire side of Turin, the city. The whole,
Oh my
all of the power
God.
went out. So it was like, what are we doing? And it was weird because normally in a production kind of point of view, I kind of tend to like ignore anything going on around me, right? Obviously, if there's a fire, that's a bit different. But in this case, I was like in the middle of the interview. So I carried on the interview because I was like, I don't know if it's just the lights and the cameras are still running and the stream's still running. So I was like, I don't want to bring like any disruption to this. So we just carried on, and we carried on for a good 5-10 minutes until producer David came over and he was like, guys, stop. Everything's gone. And I was like, okay.
Okay,
We've just
that's-
literally been carrying on. But I was like, at least we kind of, if it was running still for people at home, it would have kind of kept the show running. But yeah, so for 3 hours it was down. We couldn't do anything because we had no Wi-Fi. So the players couldn't. Obviously, they're using the LAN, and there was like, I don't know how many players got affected, but there was still players in their game 3 when it went down, and then it crashed
Oh,
the games. So that was a bit of a problem for the judges to sort out. And then yeah, so that made day one very long. I don't think we finished until about 10 p.m. So it was a really long day. But it was fun. It was a really fun event. Obviously, getting to cast with Shmon and Shona for the first time, and obviously cast with Ben before, not in an official capacity, but yeah, it was really nice, mate. I was knackered by the end of the day.
I can imagine.
And I had the worst. Like, we went for a staff dinner on the Friday night after we did like all of the kind of pre-production stuff. We went rehearsals and everything like that, so we knew what the setup was on the Saturday. It was a staff dinner. Funny story with this as well. Shimon was like, "Oh, the restaurant for the staff dinner's here," and he like took us over the bridge in Turin. Like 20 minutes into town, we walked, right? for ages.
Yeah,
And then we got to this really dodgy area, and it was like this old gym next to a closed down pizzeria and this like really sus looking hotel. And we were like, this definitely doesn't look like the place, and there's like no other staff here. And he like literally just typed in the place of the restaurant name and just chose the first one that came up, and he took us like completely the wrong direction.
Oh my god.
So like we rang some of the other guys, like the Go guys, and they were like, no, it's literally right next to the venue where we were. We were like, are you joking? So we had to walk another 20 minutes back. By the time we got there was like basically no food left, and they were like clearing up. So we just managed to get like a few bits that were there. And oh man, I regret that. I have never had as bad food poisoning. And like, it wasn't as bad as like it didn't last 3 days, but that night and the next morning weren't pleasant, mate. I was very ill. So I don't know how I got through that round one, but round one on stream, because we kind of opened the show, did game one, and then I had a break, and like that was just how that was planned out. Worked perfectly because I had to go back to the hotel and kind of pull myself together, and oh mate, I was in pieces. But after that, so I didn't eat that entire day. So for it to be as long a day, I was so ruined by the end of it. But I did feel better by the end of the day in regards to the food poisoning. But I don't know what it was. It wasn't a good experience. Day two though went a lot smoother, mate. It was good. So still a long day, but yeah, it was nice. And then travel back yesterday, which was a slog as well, because traveling anywhere in the UK from Stansted Airport in London is always difficult.
Coming back is always a mess as well. That's what I find. Yeah. It never goes very well. So yeah. But yeah. No, mate, you are a trooper. You are an absolute trooper. I don't think I could do half of that stuff. But you know, props to you for carrying on the interview. You know, so professional. Carrying on through food poisoning. I mean, mate, you're just a legend. I don't think I could have done any of that. Absolute machine.
I just had to keep going, but yeah, it wasn't great. But I'm just pleased that it kind of went away when it did on the Saturday. Mm-hmm. And I just drank copious amounts of water, which, I think got me through in the end.
Excellent. Well, as you know, there's been quite a lot of news this week. Quite a lot of news.
It has.
So I think the biggest one is obviously Pokemon Home came out. For those of you that don't know, I'm sure most of you know, but Pokemon Home came out. And so people were happy, obviously, although many people still complained because, you know, people love to moan. So, but, you know, we got home and we got a selection of Pokemon. We didn't get all of them, but we got a certain few. And yeah, it's here now. As far as I'm aware, there wasn't many glitches or many problems, which is great because obviously they've had loads of problems recently, and we don't want that to keep happening. So yeah, I don't think there's.
I think there was a few issues with people being able to log into Home, but I think generally the rollout was pretty good because they staggered the login process. But I think there was a few people that were still experiencing problems like 48 hours after the last rollout kind of went live. So, but I think from as far as I know, I haven't heard anyone that hasn't been able to access it yet. But like you say, mate, I think a really smooth transition from recent things that have kind of cropped up, which is really nice to see. I think they had to get this one right, and it feels like they kind of did. So, yeah, it's finally here.
Finally here after all this speculation and drama. It's finally here. As I mentioned to you before the podcast, I had a few questions about Pokemon Home and all the bits and bobs. And the main one that I had was obviously, as I just mentioned, Pokemon Home only is this version of Pokemon Home for Scarlet and Violet. They're only allowing you to transfer a certain amount. And we have a lot of people complaining about why can't we have all the Pokemon in this game. And the question I wanted to ask you is, do you think it's fair for Pokemon to hold back all the Pokemon, or do you think that now we have such a large amount of Pokemon, it's not realistic to expect Pokemon to be like, okay, you're going to be able to have every Pokemon in this game?
I think it's I think it's fair enough at the minute, because I think if you like, we know we're going to be getting a lot more Pokemon added to Scarlet and Violet
That's
when
what I
the
was going to
DLCs
say.
come out.
Yeah.
So I think it kind of spoils the DLCs a little bit if those Pokemon are just accessible now. It kind of takes away a little bit of the FOMO about those DLCs, because you think, oh, the DLCs are coming back. Blastoise is in the DLC. I can't wait to get my Blastoise. Or Venusaur's in the DLC. You know, like examples like that. And I think now if Home came out and it was like, oh, you could just transfer everything over. One, I think it detracts people from purchasing the DLCs.
100%.
Which is
100%.
whichever side of the fence you fall on, whether or not you agree with the gatekeeping of that for like the monetization of that or not, I think it does make sense from a business point of view. And I think it would, yeah, it's just going to be a detriment to the how well the DLCs do. Whereas if the DLCs are the way for you to unlock all of these Pokemon, because I think one of the things that you'll see is when the DLCs come out, Home will then open up. It'll have an update where you can pull these Pokemon into Scarlet and Violet, regardless if you've got the DLCs or not. Probably, I don't know whether that'll be a factor where you have to get the DLCs to actually transfer these into the game. I wouldn't have thought so. So, I think that's one way of looking at it. And I think if you go back to, was it like pre-Sword and Shield or just after Sword and Shield came out, and Game Freak were talking about, there's never going to be another Pokemon game again where every single Pokemon's going to be in the games, because there's just too many of them. And
It's
I
not
think,
realistic, in my opinion.
and I don't mind it too much, because it makes, I think, you know, like we didn't get Breloom in Sword and Shield, and I was like, when I knew Breloom was coming to Scarlet and Violet, I was like really hyped to be like, oh, I can play with Breloom again. You know, and I think it makes those some of your favorite Pokemon. It's sad that you can't use them sometimes or play around with them, but then you can kind of look at other options, maybe find a new favorite Pokemon or something else that you kind of like favor over anything else that you maybe wouldn't have looked at, because you'd always just use that original one that you kind of liked. But then when you do get the chance to use it again, maybe the generation later, it's like, makes it a bit cooler, I think. But that's just my point of view. I can see where people come from, and I totally get like why people are like, I just want all of them in one game. But the facts are like, there's so many of them now. I don't think it's ever going to happen.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think Pokemon fans have got, you know, they feel not entitled is probably the wrong word, but you know, I think they have a right to expect certain things. Obviously, you know, you want things to run well, and you know, you expect them to add certain Pokemon. But I think this thing in particular, as we said, you know, it's not really fair for them to be like, yeah, we're gonna put in all the new Pokemon. And because leading on to another point as well, I've seen a lot of people complaining that they've reused animations. I don't know if you've seen this with some Pokemon. There's one specific example of, I think it's Origin Pulse and then Regieleki's signature move, or not Regieleki, the Regidrago is signature move. They both have
exactly the same,
but different colours. How do you feel about that? Do you think that's something that, like, because obviously it's cool, I know they've done it in the past where they've reworked some animations, but to go through and rework every single animation would take so much time. I don't think people realise this. Like, it's not just a little thing, because like there must be hundreds of moves, right? And it's just like, it's not really fair, because then they have to, because of the new overworld spawns, it's not just like where before we would go into like that battle mode, right, that we used to have. It wasn't specific to the area like it is now. We must make it a lot harder, because you have to, you know, I would imagine code the moves to interact with the environment and also not glitch out depending on where you are, if you're close to a building or close to a tree, you know, whatever. So I don't think it's necessarily fair. I do understand the frustration from some of the stuff. I think signature moves are probably the one thing out of all the things that should have their own animations for each Pokemon. Yeah. Maybe not so much there's just like the normal, like regular moves per se, because, you know, people don't really care about them. But Origin Pulse, you know, things like that, Twinkle Tackle, you know, Precipice Blaze, they should all have their own, you know, new unique animation. And so I understand that argument, but I don't think it's fair to have the argument for all the others.
I think like the signature attacks, like you say, probably should have their own animation. Makes sense too. But how many examples are there? Like, is that the only example? They're kind of replicating the same animation for just those two, or is there more examples? Like, I haven't really looked into
That
it
is the
too
only
much.
one that I've seen so
Yeah,
far.
and I think it just I agree with you 100%. I think each like signature move, like that only that Pokemon gets, should have its own animation. I don't think it matters too much with other things if they're similar or they use the same sort of, I don't know, animation for that move. But I think it really, like, the whole thing probably just comes back to the point of, we know that Scarlet and Violet were rushed out, right? There's so many issues with them. They were obviously on a really restricted time frame. And then if you're on a restricted time frame, like, what are the things that get sacrificed? You kind of don't want to sacrifice performance, but unfortunately that is the case, which is what's happened. And I think the moves, the animations for them as well, that's probably one thing that's like they've been like, right, well, we could this if we do this for like all of the moves, like it's going to take us another like month to get these games out, or because this all stuff needs doing before the games are actually released, right?
Yeah,
I don't think
100%.
this can be like, I guess you could probably patch some stuff in as you go, but like the base info needs to be there when the games come out. So I think, I don't know, it's understandable for Scarlet and Violet. In an ideal world, of course, it would be great, but I think like at this point, we just want the games to run properly, right? I think that's everyone's biggest kind of thing. Just like, I don't want my save data getting deleted. I just want to be able to play these games. Like, the move animations feels like a little, like a kind of a, what's the right word for it? It feels like a, I can't think of the right word. It just feels like an extra that we don't necessarily need on top of it.
It's not a necessity. It's not a necessity.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not,
It's having some flair to it when we don't necessarily need it, and it would be nice, yeah. But I think, like we've mentioned on many podcasts before, like I think the majority of the fan base would be happy probably waiting an extra year, an extra 2 years between generations, if it meant that we got all of these nice extra little things on top of it. But the fact is that whatever the schedule is between Game Freak and Nintendo to get Pokemon games out, it's obviously stretching Game Freak, so they're not able to do everything that they probably want to do. And I am leaning on Game Freak's side of things, like a lot more than I probably would normally. But I think it's understandable for this sort of thing, and it is going to get to the point where, how much can we just complain about these games? Like, like what else do people need to have to like moan about? And it feels like, let's just enjoy the games for what they are. Let's wait and see what the DLCs bring, and we can.
I think the biggest problem is, I feel like we're going, as I think I mentioned on the podcast in the past, we seem to be going through this phase of video games, all video games that are being released, like underperforming or being badly optimized. Most of the AAA games that have been released this year, or ports, specifically ports, are all badly optimized because developers aren't being given enough time to develop it, or they're just too lazy. And I don't think that Pokemon are necessarily lazy, and they do some questionable things, but I don't think they're lazy. I just think that they just don't, because of the schedule, as we've mentioned many times in the past, as you've just said, they just don't have the time. And where that pressure is coming from, we can only speculate, whether it's coming from Nintendo, whether it's coming from Pokemon, whether it's coming from just a few execs somewhere, or whether they're just like, we just want to keep pumping out games because it makes us money. It's one of those things we have to accept. You also got to remember that, I was just thinking, obviously the consoles have a life cycle, right? And I know we bang on about how the Switch hardware is doo-doo now. Like, I understand that Tears of the Kingdom run really well, but again, as we've mentioned, loads of development time. But as we always get towards the end of a console cycle like this one, Pokemon games are always going to struggle because, as we've mentioned, they're always going to try and do more stuff, but they're going to be limited by the hardware. And, and I feel like, as we've said, it's just one of those unfortunate things where it's a mixture of everything, the lack of development time, the console getting old, and just probably executive decisions that that are out of their control, glitches that they have no idea that are going to happen, because unfortunately that's just one of the things, but it just is what it is. I think people forget that at the end of the day it's a Pokemon game, and I appreciate the fact that people do have high expectations, because you want to have high expectations for something that you love, but sometimes you just have to accept the game for what it is. The game is still a really good game. Yes, it had its problems. I mean, if you play it in handheld, you don't actually get... Well, personally, I haven't experienced a lot of problems because I haven't actually docked it much. But if you play handheld, which I think Pokemon games, for me, should be enjoyed that way. I think it's cool that you can dock it, but playing handheld, it's always been a handheld game, so I enjoy playing it. There wasn't that many problems and glitches, and it is what it's never going to be like. It's going to be a long time before Pokemon is this beautiful graphical masterpiece. That's never going to happen anytime soon, because it's not that type of game. Like, that's not the core focus of the game. The core focus
never been about that either.
The Pokemon, no. This is what people said before about the past. Look at the old Pokemon games, man. The art style, like, it's what Pokemon is. And I think the problem is you've got all these. You've probably got a large chunk. I mean, you always get with every generation of these Pokemon fans that have grown up, and now they expect more from a game when realistically, at its heart, it still is a child's game. Unfortunately, it's made for kids, and so it's never going to be like a cinematic masterpiece, because again, because of the target audience, they're always going to try and release as many as they can, and because it's intertwined with all the other stuff like the anime, the trading card, Pokemon Go and all that stuff. It's just how it is, and I think people just need to accept it to a certain extent. I understand people's frustrations, but sometimes it's out of your control, most of it. So why sit there and moan? Just enjoy what you can. If you finish playing Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and you're kind of done with it and you don't like the Tera Raids, don't sit there moaning about it for hours, because the amount of times I see comments on your videos being like, "Oh, I stopped playing Scarlet and Violet a long time ago," and I'm like, well, why have you come and looked at this Tera Raid video then? And then it's just like, just be happy with what it is. Accept it for what it is. Pokemon doesn't have an insane replay value. It's just what it is.
I think it's just a general frustration, isn't there, within like a lot, like a
It's also mob mentality as well. I think a lot of people probably hopped on the bandwagon because they're like, actually, you know what people are like. So
it only takes like one person to be like, this isn't right, we deserve more, and then someone else is like, actually, you're right, and
then we do.
It snowballs from there. And to a certain extent, I think you pay a lot of money for these games. You pay a lot of money for the online subscription to utilize the Tera Raids and stuff like that. Go online and do them and things. So
I think home should be included with Switch Online, personally.
Yeah, that's another thing. You've got to pay for home as well. So there's a lot of a lot of people work hard for their money, right? And like, you want value for your money. And sometimes when you feel like you aren't getting value for your money, I can see where that frustration comes from. But I think, like you say, I think we've really got to, at this stage, just be like, this game, it is what it is. And it isn't a bad game. It's enjoyable, There are issues with it. But I think let's give the DLCs a chance to kind of redeem this game, or put it back on a pedestal where people haven't got as much to complain about. We don't know what the updates are going to be from the DLC. There's probably going to be a big patch update before the DLC gets brought online, goes live, So that might be what they've been working towards. They might fix a lot of the issues that we've had. Fair enough, it might not fix performance issues in regards to when the Switch is docked and things like that, but if it fixes a majority of other things that have been a long line of kind of issues since the game's dropped, then and if there's no issues going forward, that's a good thing, right?
And there's always this sort of argument of being like, again, this is kind of, I guess this is up for debate, but there's always a debate around, should you pre-order stuff, right? Because you never know what the final product's going to be. And I think it's fair to think, with a lot of things, that it should be good, I don't think there's anything wrong with pre-ordering, but, whatever you say, I don't care. You are always running a risk by pre-ordering anything. And so, Scarlet and Violet was, I'm sure most people pre-ordered Scarlet and Violet, as most people have pre-ordered the DLC, So you should be aware. I think people forget that, that I'm not saying that Pokemon have the right or there should be glitches or anything, but unfortunately, it's one of those things that happen. Technology is not. It's not easy to develop stuff. I mean, there's always loads of little things that just if you've ever tried to like troubleshoot a computer or anything, like there's so much stuff that you can do. There's like a million different things you can do to solve one problem, and programming isn't easy by any means. So it's just one of those things.
There's always one or two things that always get overlooked, and I think it's probably made worse in an open world situation where you've got so many different possibilities that you can do. Like, there's only so much you can test if you've got a testing time frame. So there's always going to be things that get missed, you know, and it just gets expedited a lot more in an open world scene. Whereas, you know, a lot of past Pokemon games have been quite linear. You're limited to what you can do. But in Scarlet and Violet, for the first time, there's a lot more freedom to the game, which creates a lot more opportunities to do things that probably testers, developers didn't think were possible, especially when they're in combination with each other. So the result of those things is like, well, we're not going to know until the games are released, really, unless we like delay the games for another year. And because of our contract, theoretically, we can't do that. We've got to get this game out on this date. And yeah, that's that. So it is a difficult situation.
But it is what it is. Like I said, let's not hamper it for too long.
But coming back to your question, I think I don't mind too much because I know Pokemon are coming back in with the DLCs into home. I think we know we're not going to get the full Pokedex ever back again. But imagine the game where they do it. You know, they might do like Generation 10, Generation 11. There might be a spin-off on one of those, and they say, right, well, yeah, this is the only time we're ever doing it. Every Pokemon's back. You don't know what they're gonna do, but again, I just feel like it's just another thing to kind of moan about. And people that moan are a bit have issues or complain about things are always louder than the people that are kind of content and happy with things, you know.
Yeah, the majority of the people moaning aren't the majority of the player base, so it's always the case. But anyway, enough negativity. Moving on briefly, we'll touch on this because we don't want it to be a whole video game podcast as we've mentioned in the past. But we have Regulation D starting for the competitive series for the video game. Again, as we mentioned, only a certain few Pokemon were allowed into Scarlet and Violet, and this is one of the main reasons because of the video game series. And so, you know, there was a handful. I don't know how many it ended up being, but so
there's about 90 odd Pokemon that are transferable in.
The new format adds in all the genies, the Hisuian Pokemon, and a lot of the legendaries. So this will be an interesting format to see. It's a bit frustrating.
This is the rank ladder for everyone wondering. The rank ladder on Scarlet and Violet will be starting Regulation D, which will be the 1st of July. And the new rules are going to be introducing all the transferable Pokemon available from Pokemon Home, excluding the box art legendaries. So things like Kyogre, Groudon, Mewtwo, Mew, all of those big legendaries aren't going to be usable in this format. But everything else, like your Hisuian Pokemon, like your Ursalunas, your Sneaslers, Enamorus, all the genies, like Scott's mentioned, like Thunderous Tornadus, and...
Have you seen the new move that the genies get?
Yeah, they get a signature attack.
The double target moves that like have a chance to like burn and stuff like that.
Yeah, boosted power in the rain as well.
Yeah, in the weather. I mean, well, let's not dive into that, but I thought that was crazy stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of new toys to play with with these new Pokemon. So they'll be introduced in the new ranked series, and that looks likely to be the official rule set for the World Championships, which will be happening in Yokohama this summer. So the 11th of August onwards, over that weekend, that's when we will see the World Championships running. And the interesting thing is, it will be the first official tournament where these rules are being played, so it's going to make for an absolutely
Is it not being played at NAIC?
Nope, that's going to be Regulation C.
Oh my god, so it's literally Worlds and any tournament afterwards. See, we spoke about this, and I don't know how I feel about this, but it could be really good. Well, not good or bad, but I mean, I've moaned about the rapid format changes. I think it's stupid, but it will make it interesting, at least.
It'll make it a good event. I actually like it. I think if I was a player as well, I would like that this is happening, But that's just, I think it's down to the player themselves, personal point of view, you know. So everyone's going to have a different view, and I can understand the frustrations again from the player base that are like, we have no previous official tournaments before this. But it's a big challenge for the players, and they're going to have to rise up to take that World Championships.
Because
It'll be funny though as well, because I think they're going to implement. I've heard that they're going to be able to implement battle box locking by the World Championships, and there's a strong rumor going round that because battle box locking potentially will be introduced, that open team sheets for the World Championships will be removed.
Holy shizzle, man, that'd be wild.
Nothing from official sources. This is all just rumor, so I don't know. I can't personally see this happening. I think it'd be a dick move to be like, yeah, no open team sheets. I know you've got used to it in like the 6 months that we've had VGC. We're just gonna remove it for Worlds. Did you hear what they did in Korea with open team sheets? So they had open team sheets in Korea, but they left out the terrestrialization. So they had everything else, but you didn't know the terrestrialization, like the Tera type on the opponent's Pokemon.
The one thing that you actually need to know, really, the most important thing, part of the whole sheet is the Tera types. And like, yeah,
we're gonna make this more exciting. You're gonna be guessing the whole match. So yeah, that was funny.
Anyway, that's enough. Sort of VGC.
So that's happening for VGC, yeah.
There is Japan, that's happening as well.
This weekend.
Weekend. There has been some...
And there is a Bronzong mystery gift as well, which will be happening with this event. So you can get a mystery gift Bronzong from, I think it was the seniors or the juniors winners from...
Yeah, we mentioned it last week. We touched on it.
Yeah, so there will be a video up on my channel. So when it goes live with all the details if you want to get it. So don't worry yourself about that if you feel like you're going to miss it, because you can just check out my video when it goes live.
Excellent.
Yeah.
On to some TCG news now. Lots
going on in
TCG.
As always.
The servers are shutting down for the online trading card game.
Yeah.
This was a bit of a hot topic to begin with. So for those of you that don't know, the way to practice, so the video game has loads of ways to practice. You can play on cart, or you can play on a website called Pokemon Showdown. Those are the ways you can build a team and practice. For the trading card game, they had Pokemon Trading Card Online. And that was an app for desktop, and they finally kind of brought it to iPads, but it had to be a certain version of iPad. But essentially, it was a similar thing. Because in every pack of Pokemon cards, as most of you probably know, you get a code card, and that is used for the Trading Card Online, and that will give you the same pack but virtual. So you can help you build your deck and stuff like that, because you actually have to get the card still in order to build the deck virtually. And I can't remember how many months ago it was. They basically announced a new. I think I have it downloaded. I can't remember what it's called. A new online system for practicing Pokemon. And so that it's called Pokemon TCG Live. That's it. And because of that, obviously they're shutting down all of the stuff for Pokemon Trading Card Online. And basically, you can port your stuff over, because I think I did it. It does bring your stuff over, but I think the set before Scarlet and Violet was the last set that was supported, as in you could upload the codes to it, and then. But yeah, now basically, back to my point, is that they're shutting down this old version, and now we have the new one going live soon. So you can, as we mentioned, you can migrate all your stuff over.
You have to go in and actually do the migrate, because otherwise you lose it then, do you?
You just have to log in, basically, to your account on this TCG Live.
One.
Yeah, and it will migrate all your stuff over as part of the thing, because I did it
to
put some codes on. But
okay.
So yeah, it's just another one of those, those things. Trading card game online is obviously really good. So I'm hoping that this is decent. The only thing that kind of annoyed me, which I noticed, is that, like, you used to be able to keep packs when you added them. You could collect them and trade packs. You can't do that now. Whenever you get a pack, you have to just open it and get the cards, which is really annoying. I
guess it makes it in a way better for trading, because I mean, like, some of the, like, when a new set ever came out, and they'd be like a new deck would come up and you'd be like, okay, well, I want these cards for this deck because I want to practice it. The big cards in that deck were always like way overpriced, like in a trading system. So you'd have to like trade away like maybe like 30 packs just for that one card, you know. And it was like, I guess that takes away from it. Although I don't know what the trading system's like in TCG Live. It might be a little bit better, but I know you kind of got fleeced if you wanted that specific deck, especially if you weren't lucky to pull it in the pack cards that you got. You were kind of like, you were at the mercy of people that had those cards on the
TCG codes
online already.
You can normally pick up codes quite cheap, to be fair. Like if you want to build a deck online, it's not. You can only get up.
So
I think
with the old cards, can you use the old cards on TCG Live? Or
no, I think that is one of the things. So I think they support from like Scarlet and Violet onwards. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So if you have any old codes,
old cards I've got, I
don't know. I'm not 100%. I thought
I'll
that's
find
how
out
it
for
worked.
next week.
But
I'll find out for next week.
Yeah, I apologize if I just got that wrong for anyone listening, but I don't play TCG as much. So I don't know, but it is a good platform for practicing, and I want to start playing TCG. I don't know if I mentioned it on the podcast before, but I really do want to play an official event. TCG, I've never played an official event. I've only ever played locals before, so that'd be fun. So maybe we'll get something sorted on the podcast at some point. But
next season we can do some training and go and play in a regional or something. That would be fun.
That could be interesting.
Yeah.
So. We did. I don't think we didn't get a chance to touch on it last podcast.
Last year.
But another set came out, or was coming out, and the Obsidian Flames, this is where the that Charizard that we showed you came from, with the terrestrialized, the Dark Terror type. This is a Pokemon Center exclusive. This particular ETB box, but you can buy a booster box as well. Again, this set looks really cool. It's gonna be worth loads because it has a bloody Charizard in it.
Yeah,
it's
gonna be hard to get.
They love to do it. And then also we've got Paldea Evolved we have a release date for that now, which is the most recent one. Sold out online, as you can imagine, and most places it's sold out. I actually tried to get, because there's been obviously loads of hype. You know, TCG sets come out, there's always loads of hype for stuff. And, you know, as we've mentioned, we've been sucked into it because, you know, some of the artwork is really cool. And, you know, as a collector, it's just fun. It's fun to do. And there's that 151 set that we touched on in the past.
Yeah.
I tried to pre-order one the other day naively. You can't because they're sold out everywhere. But they keep revealing the special card. You know, they've started to do these full art cards that aren't like really expensive full art cards, like just like the special illustration cards. That's what they're called.
Yeah.
And so they keep revealing these more and more of these special designs and stuff. And they've just revealed. I don't know if you've seen. Have you seen the Poliwell one that they've just revealed?
Yeah, I have. I actually saw that this morning.
This card is. I've got it up on stream.
So nice.
If you're not watching, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, you have to come to YouTube and have a look at it, or at least just Google it, because this card is bloody gorgeous, man. I mean,
It's
couldn't
so
get
nice, isn't it?
the shine on this is going to be incredible. I mean, all these illustration cards have been amazing, and they're not expensive as well. So if you're a collector, like they're not hard to get hold of. Like the pull rates are not super rare, but they just look gorgeous. So obviously
they're nice
the
cards.
better ones will be more expensive, but you know, this set just looks awesome, and I want this card now. There was this like Riolu from the Scarlet and Violet one that has is holding like little dumbbells that I really want. I tried to get one at a Comic-Con, but I couldn't find one with like decent centering and stuff. But
the alt cards, they're really going like to town on them at the minute. I think since Scarlet and Violet dropped it, they're really up in their game. Like they weren't bad before; they were really nice before, but they seem to be really like hitting the mark with all of the alt arts in these new sets now. I wasn't expecting the 151 set actually to be as kind of appealing as it's turning out to be. I thought it would just be kind of a standard, kind of just reprints of old cards that are in that original decks, and nothing really too flashy, and maybe a few like big cards at the end of the set. But it feels like it's going to be a really nice set, to kind of have as not just a collector's item as well. For players, obviously, it's going to introduce some things to the TCG, which would be good for the competitive players as well.
Yeah, I mean the box artwork as well looks incredible. If I pull that up quickly, but you know, I mean the people are already reselling them on eBay. This is an eBay listing, but you know, there was just so many cards in this set, like this Pikachu as well. This card is awesome. Nice. This Nidoking as well that they've announced. I mean,
Nidoking. That is awesome, isn't it?
It is wicked.
It's like Nidoking in a jungle, for those of you who are listening. This is the hardest bit of the pod when we talk about TCG. I think for those of you that are listening on like Spotify or iTunes, to get a visual idea of the cards is pretty hard to do, especially when they're like the special illustration cards. I would definitely just recommend, if you're interested, if you're intrigued by what we're talking about, definitely just hop on Google the TCG 151 set and have a look at some of the special art cards in there, because like you say, if you're not on YouTube now, it's really hard to kind of get an idea, and they are beautiful cards. When is the release date for that? Is it July?
Let's have a look.
Or is it June? I want to say it's this month. I thought it was sometime in June, but
let's have a look.
I may be wrong.
It's June 16th in Japan.
Yeah, so it'll be
really interesting to see if we get, because I think the English print will be mad. I mean, as you mentioned, we probably will get a merge of it. You know, probably like to merge sets, don't they, when they release English
like
sets?
A special holiday set, you know, a bit like.
Oh man, that would sell like hotcakes.
Celebrations. I honestly feel like that's what they'll do. It'll be a special holiday set rather than bringing it in or integrating these cards within other sets. I don't know, of course, but that would be what I would have thought they would have done, but we'll see.
Right. So, you know, I found something very interesting as well. We're sort of merging into Scott's Rocket Game Corner / Goodie Bag.
Rocket Game Corner, yes, because we missed it last week.
We missed it last week, unfortunately, so I've got plenty of stuff for us to look at.
We need to double down on it.
Double down.
Before we get into it, mate,
because
I think we've touched everything that's kind of happened recently, I just want to say, obviously, still no Tera Raid events for Scarlet and Violet, so we're still waiting on an announcement for that. I fully expected it to happen this weekend. Like Sunday night, I thought home release out the way, and I thought, yeah, they're going to come back. They've sorted the issue. It seems like they haven't resolved whatever the issue was with that Eintred's Great Tusks raid problem with the non-item. So maybe this Sunday is the Sunday. Now they've had a bit more time to kind of iron out the issues, and I hope we get like a triple event like next week. Like a week Friday, you could see like the Chestnut repeat, Eintred's, and then also that Delphox coming back. I don't know if that's possible to get 2 7-star raids happening at one time.
But Delphox is in the game now. Like, people aren't going to be interested, are they? That's the thing.
I know, that's the thing. Although
I don't think it will come now.
Delphox is in the game. I think it will. Because I think we'll go off what Light was saying. The Mightiest Mark, I think, has implications for DLC reasons. So I think you need to be able to obtain these Pokemon with their Mightiest Mark to unlock the features, these special terrestrialization forms in the DLCs. So I think we will get them. I think they're important, but it does take away a bit of the hype around getting them in game. But we'll see. Anyway, sorry, mate.
No, that's fine.
Scott's Rocket Game Corner.
Dude, we need to get a little cheeky animation so we can just screen wipe it. It would be awesome. So the first thing that I found was
sorry, go on.
This Gizmodo. It was actually on Reddit. I found this originally, but this Gizmodo article explains very well. Someone's basically created. I mean, as we've mentioned with the Analog Pocket, there are loads of emulation consoles that exist. But someone's made this like tiny pocketable like Game Boy clone, basically.
That looks cool, doesn't it?
It's like basically like credit card size to put in your pocket. They have a little video here that we can watch. But yeah, no, I thought this was wicked. It's a Chinese company. Reviewing them, blah blah blah. Retro nostalgia.
Is it just got ROMs that you put onto it then, or does it come with ROMs installed?
It's got a micro SD card slot, as well as a media player. Yeah, I would imagine that you load up the ROMs that you want to play.
It's teeny tiny, isn't it?
Let's watch this video, see what.
Have a look at this. Oh, they've got a full advertising video. It's got a little clock on it. I'm gonna try and do a narration for
Oh,
those
it's like
that are listening.
oh, it's like the blue colors looks awesome.
Yeah, it comes in lots of different colors. Wow, it's a color screen as well. That's really interesting because you'd have thought that's a really nice little bit of kit, isn't it?
To have around on like your keys or something as well.
Yeah, and that's what they're kind of advertising it as,
yeah.
like as a little keychain Game Boy.
I kind of want one, you know.
Yeah, teeny tiny.
I wonder how good the battery is. I'd imagine it'd be
It's
okay.
probably all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is so small. The color screen though is pretty cool.
Oh, she had a Mackey's. She rocked up to a Mackey's. Oh, look, there we go. It's on your bag.
Just chilling there.
Oh, she's got two. What? She's got one on her bag as well. She's ready. She's kitted out. It's got no way. It's got a little headphone jack as well. That's so cute.
Crazy.
Oh, that might be a Type-C. That's a Type-C adapter, to be fair.
It is, yeah.
But still.
I wonder if you could like put it onto like a big screen.
Maybe with Type-C. I reckon you could, you know.
Yeah.
But this might be cheaper than your. Oh no, but it's not. It won't emulate the actual thing, will it?
No,
the Analog Pocket, but
the nice thing about the Analog Pocket I like as well is, you know, like the kind of the pirated market for games, especially Pokemon games, is so high, right? And it's really difficult if you don't know the right things to look for to like identify if a game's pirated or not, and they're getting even more difficult to kind of distinguish pirated games from non-pirated games, stuff like fakes from non-fakes. The Analog Pocket has a system built into it. It will always be able to detect if a game's a fake or not, which is pretty nice.
That's cool. Oh, because I mentioned to you, I haven't mentioned it on the podcast yet.
I know.
But after we spoke about the fakes for the GBA games and all that stuff, I went and looked through them because I don't know if I mentioned it on the podcast, but I had basically all of the old games, bar like Pokemon Silver and I think it was Fire Red. And so I checked through them all, and I was looking for all the things that Lee mentioned, and unfortunately, so I had Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, Leaf Green, and what was the other one that I had?
Fire Red?
Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald. There was two. What ones did I say were dodgy? But anyway, I basically found out that my copy of Pokemon Sapphire was fake. No, I did have Fire Red. That was the other one I had. My copy of Pokemon Sapphire was fake. It had no number indents. And another thing that I noticed when I was looking up the stuff to make the YouTube short that I made about it, that'll be coming out soon. Basically, the text on the top of the cartridge the font is slightly different. Like the actual Game Boy Advance font is different. And as soon as I saw it, I was like comparing. I was like, oh no. So yeah, so the Fire Red version that I have and the Sapphire's like my favourite game as well. They're fake, but thankfully the Ruby. I thought the Ruby was fake, but as you mentioned, the indent is really, really hard to find the number indent. There is one on there.
Right on it.
But that one is okay. Emerald is fine, thankfully, and so is Leaf Green. And it looks like all of the Game Boy cards that I have are real, because you don't see many of them that are fake.
You can take it's easy to do if you take the cover off and have a look at the chipboard as well.
That's how I knew as well. I checked the back. It was pretty obvious, but
yeah, because you can see like through the translucent case, like sometimes.
Can you sell them as a fake, or is that like illegal? Like
no, you can sell them as a fake. I think like just you saying that it is
clearly,
like
but it's fake.
Yeah, like it's not genuine. You know, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, you got duped by it, which is very sad. I'm very sad for you, mate. We'll have to do something to try and rectify you getting a copy of Sapphire, a genuine copy. I've been looking at listings on eBay. They just sell for so much money.
I wanted a sealed version. I found a sealed version for $2,500 on eBay, and I was like, oh, maybe not. Maybe if the podcast takes off, I'll treat myself. But let's see. I was like,
oh man.
But you know, collectors. Anyway, you know that it is what it is. But that's not all we have for Scott's Rocket Game Corner. I have some other things to show. We got plenty of treats for you today. I don't know what Pokemon event this was, but you know, there was someone made these statues that I just thought were really cool for like all of the Scarlet and Violet Pokemon. So they had a Koraidon, and they had the evolutions as well.
Someone made these and brought them to the event?
Yeah, they were at an event. I assume they were made. They look like they were made out of like clay.
They're so awesome,
or
aren't
something. I mean,
they? Wow.
if you
Oh,
look
yeah.
at, they look like
Yeah,
they're
you can
made.
see, like,
But yeah,
they are awesome, aren't they? So there's like, yeah, it looks like clay or like a paper mache sort
I
of
don't know
thing,
what
but
this
they're
Pokemon
so
is.
well done.
Is that a
What is
Pokemon?
that?
Oh, is it Alolan Meowth with a skull thing on his head? I don't know
No,
if that's
that
meant to
looks
be a
more
Pokemon.
like a. It looks like a Marowak skull, kind of. I don't know. I don't know what that is.
Who knows? But
Marowak skull? Who knows? But it looks cool. And there's Jolteon, the other evolution, Sylveon. Amazing work, though.
is Cillian Cubone? Is that? I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Someone made it up. But I just thought it was really cool, and I just wanted to share it. Basically,
That's really cool.
it's not
I love
often that
that.
you get to see. Moving on. So
Moving
we
on.
had giant Crocade Snorlax on the previous episode.
Yes.
How about giant Crocade's Clogsire instead?
That is.
I mean, look at this
ginormous.
absolute beast of a crochet. I mean, look at it.
That is bed size.
You could lay on that. It's
How,
so
how long did that take to
it's so
do?
cute. Let's look at the comments. I mean, look at the
Wow.
size of it.
That
It's
looks amazing.
huge, man. It looks awesome, doesn't it?
That is like as big. That is as big as the sofa. That's insane.
Can't put comparison.
This is how big it is. I'm gonna stick it on top of my car, and it takes up the entire roof.
The size of a child, basically.
That is, it's amazing. Like what people do. That must have taken hours.
Oh, hours and hours, bro. I mean, people.
Considering that Scarlet and Violet hasn't been out that long, really. You know, you started that as soon as those games,
Yeah. Oh my
dropped.
god.
As soon as Clodsire got revealed. It's like I'm on this.
Oh, she's got a
Fair
Paldean
play.
Whooper as well. Look at that.
That is very
Imagine
cute.
rocking up to a park and being like, "Here's my giant Clogsire crochet." Oh, that is awesome, man.
Amazing.
That is awesome.
Thanks for sharing that. What was that?
Oh
What
well,
was that you
well,
sneak
just,
peek at?
just one more thing that I have
One more
for
thing.
to round up the podcast. I think today.
Yeah.
Some guy, basically, it's something that I've wanted to do for a while, and I think we kind of spoke about it. I mean, we spoke about, like, I know you've been modding your GBA recently,
Yeah.
and you mentioned to me to do it, and I've been looking into it, and I think it's really cool. And you also get a lot of people that they find some ways to frame their old consoles and their old games. You know, if they're broken, you see a lot of it with old consoles and controllers. People do it all the time for their old, like, PS2, PS1, stuff like that when they die. And I just found this guy who basically framed a lot of his Pokemon stuff, and I thought it was awesome, basically.
Wow. Hey, look at
And
this.
so, as you can see in here, he's got, you know, badges in there, the copy of Pokemon Ruby, Pokemon Fire Red,
He's got like
little
trainer
trainer
badges
card,
and everything.
like a custom. I assume this is a custom Pokemon card that he had made of himself.
Yeah.
For all the regions, there's Pokemon Silver there, Pokemon Pearl, Pokemon X, GBA SP there, Pokemon
That's
Black,
amazing.
some badges, a Pokedex, Pokemon Moon. It says
SSR
SSN
ticket.
ticket. Oh wait, that is wicked.
That
Yeah.
is very cool.
Where has he got these from? Goldenrod.
The Magnet Train boarding
What?
pass.
Oh,
That
those
is
are wicked.
That is so cool.
Shadowless Charizard in there as well. Nice, nice.
Wow.
Pokemon Shield, sorry. And then one of these little, like, pedometer
Wait there. Look at
thingy
this.
boys. And the evolution stones as well.
I wasn't even planning this.
Yeah, I've got one of those as well, but I haven't got the box.
Still in the box. Still there. It's like brand new, pretty much. I did play with it a lot. Still got the tag in the little battery pack there.
Oh wow. Yeah, they're really cute.
I don't know. My dad must have put that back in. No, or was it my parents? But yeah, surprised. Yeah, still got the box and everything for it. Great. That display though was amazing. I've just stole that. I've just spoiled that now.
Yeah.
You're like, why are you always getting your stuff out? We've always got to jump
You just
in.
want to show off. I think we should do an episode where we show a lot of our collections. I think that'd be a good one to do. I know we mentioned
I
it
would love
briefly.
to do that. That would be really cool.
But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much it for today.
What a nice thing to do though, with all of your old stuff, and to like memorize like your playthroughs with like the trainer cards there with your team on, and then the cartridge. I really wanted to do something like that with my X and Y card from when I got top 8 at Worlds that year. and like do a similar thing with like a collage or a montage of the Pokemon in the team that I used, because they're still in the battle box. They're still in on the cart. I never took those Pokemon out from that world, so they're still there.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I think that's pretty much it for today.
Yeah. I don't think there's too much to go on about, and both of us are on a bit of a schedule, so we have to shoot off as well. So, yeah, I don't know if there's much else to kind of go into detail about, but it has been a lot of fun this week again, mate. Lots to talk about, and
thank you to everyone on Spotify as well. You know, we still did really well, even though we moved the podcast. Still did really well on YouTube, even though we only have like 300 subs. So thank you to everyone that subscribed. We got like 650 views on our podcast, which is still really good considering the amount of subs that we have. The podcast,
we appreciate each and every one of you as well.
On audio, did like 60 views as well, which is like the second best we've ever done. You know, like, thank you so much to everyone listening. Like, it really means a lot. We've got big plans. There's loads of fun things we want to do. Go to events, record videos, and just spend time together and create some content. So, you know, if you have any suggestions for stuff, we've got plans, big plans for next year. Big plans.
Yeah, we've got some really exciting stuff, I think, that we're gonna do, and it's gonna make the podcast even more fun than it's been so far, which it has been a lot of fun, and I hope that you all just keep on enjoying it. I'm cutting you off today, mate. I'm sorry.
No, that's it. I think that's pretty much what I want to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think we should call it there.
Let's call it there.
So thank you everyone for listening, and feel free to tune in next week. Anything you want to say, Lee, before we go?
No, just thank you so much. Let us know, get involved in the comment section down below if you're on YouTube. Let us know any topics you'd like to see us cover next week or the week after, or just any time in the future. And let us know about everything, anything interesting that we've talked about in today's video. I'd love to hear your opinions on some of the things that Scott asked me about the Pokemon that are limited, the numbers. Would you like to see more Pokemon, all of the Pokemon in these Pokemon games? How do you feel about them being some of them being cut, some of them not being cut, and being held back for when the DLC drops before we can get access to them home? So I'd really love to know the opinions, like what the general opinions are on that sort of stuff, because obviously I've got my own opinions, but I would love to hear yours as well. So that's the only thing from me. Massive thank you as always to everyone tuning in, listening, and big thank you to you, Scott, with your beautiful blue hair.
Thank you very much. Okay, guys, we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Everybody just do your thing. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.